In today's video, we're going to cover whether or not you should apply any of the recommendations that you get from Google Ads inside your campaigns. And after managing a ton of Google Ads accounts for service-based businesses in different industries, I've noticed that each of those accounts are always getting the same recommendations over and over again. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to approach these, including which to ignore and if there are any actually worth applying in the first place. So when you're inside your actual Google Ads campaign, the place you can go and find the recommendations that Google want you to apply is you can come over here to recommendations underneath overview. And what you want to do then when you're inside your recommendations tab is go through all of these recommendations here that are given to you by Google and either apply any that you think are relevant, but also dismiss those that you want to ignore as well. Because, for example, let's just say we dismiss one right here because we don't want to optimize our budgets. We want to, have control over our own budgets and not use shared budgets or anything like that. We can dismiss this, for example, and by doing so, it's going to bring up our optimization score. And one thing that's worth doing, and I recommend doing on a weekly level, is trying to keep your optimization score up near the 100%, because there must be something about your optimization score where at least Google Ads reps must think that you're following some of the recommendations inside your campaign, because it helps when it comes to not getting bombarded with emails from them when they're trying to get you to book a call. And now we're just going to go through each of these recommendations that Google want us to apply and whether we should actually apply any of these or not. And if you'd like a checklist that includes a reminder to actually check these weekly and have a high optimization score, I'll leave a link for this checklist down below, which also includes all of the steps you need to remember when setting up and managing a Google Ads campaign from start to finish. And if you are a service-based business as well, looking to have all of this done and implemented for you, including everything from landing pages, conversion tracking, and everything else in between, I'll also leave a link for that down below in the description. Now, there is one almost category of recommendations that I do recommend at least using its guidelines and not necessarily applying, and that's usually when it comes to suggestions regarding your ad copy or assets, because usually having as many assets in place as possible is going to help with your overall performance. So it is worth seeing what ideas they have on that, even though I'm not seeing any of those suggestions right here. Unless here, for example, there's a recommendation regarding our business logo. So things like that, you can just go to your assets and double check that you have these things in place, because those are actually worth, taking note of. But then the other category and the main category of recommendations that I often see from Google are typically just kind of designed to get you to spend more budget and expand your reach overall. So for example, here, adding new keywords. And the thing with these here is that you can always look at the recommendations they have without applying. But for example, here we have keywords like fireplace repair near me, siding companies near me. But none of these keywords are actually relevant to what this company offers, because they're a roofing company and we don't have any ad groups for these services. So most of these recommendations, I just go to dismiss all, press dismiss, and just start bringing that optimization score up. Same with adding broad match keywords. We like to add some broad match keywords when using smart bidding, but if you were to add broad match keywords here, you'd be essentially adding broad match keywords to your entire campaign. And I'd never recommend having a campaign with broad match keywords exclusively, but maybe one broad match keyword per ad group to expand reach, but not to use it for your entire campaign. So you can dismiss this one as well. And then other things like dynamic images, for example. So this kind of falls into like assets and your ads and what to include on your landing pages. It's worth taking note of these and taking a note to look into it. But again, most of these recommendations I'd always recommend dismissing. And some might not be relevant in your case. For example, if you don't have customer match lists, then you don't need to worry about these. And for example, remove redundant keywords as well as kind of like the other suggestion of just adding more keywords, because there's a reason why we're targeting specific keywords and not others. So we want to have as much control as possible over the keywords that we can appear for. So again, most of the time in this report is simply just going to be dismissing the recommendations that they give. And then anything that is relevant, for example, making sure you have your business logo, as we mentioned, that's just something you can take note of to check in your own time to make sure that they actually have this in place. And again, for example, these, if you actually do have conflicting negatives where a negative keyword might be blocking out an actual keyword, this is something you can check. But if you don't have any problem with your negative keywords, then you can also dismiss this as well. And then that way, then you're bringing your optimization score back up to 100%. So all in all, it's worth looking at the recommendations they give, but for the most part, you're simply just going to come here and dismiss most of the recommendations that they give. And what's also worth doing as well is when you go to all campaigns, so not just one campaign, but all campaigns, you will see this option here for auto apply. And what I'd also recommend doing as well is just double checking that you don't have any of these auto apply recommendations selected. Because if you were to have a lot of these turned on, Google would be taking a lot of control over how your ads look, how your bidding looks, and everything like that. So I would just recommend making sure that you have each of these turned off. And while we're on the point as well of auto apply and assets being added, another thing you can double check that is just less known because it's more of a newer feature is these account level automated assets. So inside assets, you can go to the three dots here, press account level automated assets, press more again, advanced settings, and also just make sure these are turned off. And if you have these, the auto apply recommendations, and you dismiss the recommendations, this is really the best way to have full control over your campaign and the way your ads are displayed. So I hope this video helped and gave you clarity on exactly how to approach recommendations inside Google Ads. And if you do have any questions about recommendations or any other aspects of Google Ads as a whole, feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you enjoyed the video and there are other aspects of the setup or management of a campaign that you'd like to see some further detail into, I'll leave the link to our playlist on the screen right now that has separate videos on each of the individual aspects of setting up and managing a Google Ads campaign from start to finish.